Number 1, what did you do? Put it in your, yep, so you go to Y1, put in 12x minus 15, go to Y2, 6 minus 3x, second trace option 5. If you can't see the intersection, you probably need to zoom out, which I don't. I hit enter, 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 and that's my answer, 1.4. But their answers were fractions. So I have two choices. I can try to put 1.4 in my calculator and hit math, fraction, enter, and see if that matches, which is 7/5, and it did. Or could I have gone and changed each of these to decimals? So either way, just know that you can always match your answers just by changing one of them, okay? Number 2, what was your clue words? Volume, and what? Cylinder. Now look at the answer choices. Did they solve for the volume or did they simply set it up? So I don't have to go solve it, I just need to set it up. So I go to my star chart, I find volume of a cylinder, and do y'all see why we rewrite that formula? So that you don't even have to worry about big B anymore. The formula is pi r squared h, so that's what you should have written down. All right, and I need an R and I need an H. Which one's the height? 12. Okay, but is this a radius? No, so what did I have to do to that? Divide it. Did y'all do 6.5 divided by 2, and what'd you get? 3.25. So now I'm just going to plug those in. So I do pi times 3.25 squared times 12. And which one says that? A. Why would people pick B? What mistake would they have made? They forgot to divide by 2, and that's a very common mistake, so make sure you don't do that. Number 3 is a scatter plot, and it wants to know what's going on in this picture. What's going on in this picture? Do y'all see a trend? Or are those dots just all over the place? They're all over the place, so what was the answer? There is no association. Please don't miss a question like that. All right, number 4, what was your clue word? Fastest to slowest. Now, in my opinion, this is not a fair question, because those of you who are track runners probably know that fastest to slowest actually means least to greatest. A lot of you think, oh, fastest is probably greatest because it's greater to be faster. But when you're faster at something, you actually have a lower time. Does that make sense? So I think that this question is totally not fair, because kids who run track, or maybe you're swimmers, they're going to know that your fastest time is your lowest number. So I didn't like this question, but it was on a STAAR test one year. So make sure you know that if you're faster, you're actually having a lower number. So least to greatest. What should you have changed these numbers to? Decimals. And what did I teach y'all? If you put it in mode, float 2, it'll make it look like money. So 12 and a half. Alpha Y equals option 2. 12 and 1/2. Math, decimal, enter. 12.50. This one's already done. 12 and 2/5. 12.40. And this is 12.80. So remember, the fastest time is actually the least. So which one was the fastest person? I can't hear y'all. Ellen, because she had the lowest time. So Ellen had to go first. Then who had the fastest time? Steve. So the answer was C. All right, number 5, what was the clue words? Shortest to longest. So what does that mean? Least to greatest or greatest to least? Least to greatest. So what did you have to do? Change these to decimals. So this is 6.70. 34/5 is 6.80. And then the square root of 36.5 is 6.04. So which one of those is the least amount? 6.04, rectangle T. So C and D are out. Then out of these two, which one is the least? Rectangle P. So the answer was B. Now, before I move on, I want to make sure I have gotten out of mode flow 2 so I don't mess myself up on another problem. All right, let's look at question 6. What was your clue word? Slope. Now, I want y'all to think back to when I taught y'all about slope. If it falls on the same line, the slopes will be the same. Do y'all remember that? It doesn't matter because slope is not distance. Slope is how slanted something is. So if you're looking at this line, do you see that it's the same amount of steepness across the whole thing? And you could go find the slope, rise over run. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't even have to do this. I'm just showing y'all. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's going down. If I do it here, it's going to be the exact same answer because it falls on the same line. The rise was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the run was 7. Notice that their slopes are the same. So that's what you were looking for. F says the slope is less. Well, no. G says the slopes are equal. So I'm thinking that's probably the answer, but I'm going to make sure I read them all. H says this slope is greater. No. And J says the relationship between the slopes cannot be determined. Yeah, you can. They're the same. So the answer was G. The slopes are the same. How many times have you seen this picture? Too many times, right? The two smaller squares add up to equal the bigger square. So N plus L has to equal K. Now, if it doesn't say that, then you could do K minus N equals L or K minus L equals N. Y'all remember your fact families. 2 plus 3 equals 5, therefore 5 minus 3 equals 2. So you could write it backwards, right? All right, let's see. The sum of N and L is equal to K. There you go. What was wrong with B? Instead of saying equal, it said greater. Number 8, plotting a point. And what did I tell you guys if the point doesn't fall on the graph? Divide. Y divided by X. But let's look at it. A bottle contains 30 ounces of orange juice and 18 ounces of pineapple juice. Which graph has a slope that best represents this ratio? Well, look to see if those numbers will fit on this graph. Does 30 ounces of orange juice fit on this graph, or does it stop at 20? Y'all see that? So what I would have to do is divide y divided by x to see how much it would be for 1. And that would kind of help me. So which one is the y? Orange juice. So 30 would go on top and 18 would go on bottom, and I would simply divide. And that is 1.6 basically repeating. So that will help you, and everybody look at when x is 1, it's right here, right? So when pineapple juice is 1, orange juice should be 1.6. So could this be it? Maybe. Could this be it? No. Okay, could this be it? Possibly, right? Could this be it? Possibly. So what would I do next? And this one we haven't talked about good. Does anybody know what you could do? You could do it, yes. So basically when you're making a ratio box, you just have a whole bunch of numbers that can be put together. You could literally divide both of these by 2. You could say 1.6 for 1 and then multiply that by 2 to see how much should it be for 2. Then you can multiply again to see how much it should be for 3. Because it's going to keep going at the same rate. You can make a box like a table. So basically, I could divide both of those because they're proportional, and I could say when orange juice is 15, because I divided by 2, if I divide 18 by 2, what is it? Pineapple juice should be 9. So if you look at F, here's 9. Would that be at 15? No. So these two are out. This one, here's 9. Could that be at 15? Yes. Here's 9. Could that be at 15? No. So there's so many different ways to look at this. But when you have a ratio, whatever you do to the top and the bottom, you can do it to both of them, and that ratio stays true like that. Does that make sense or no? So I had my ratio y divided by x. I could literally divide both of those by 6 and have another point on that line. You divided your two numbers in what? By 3. That'll give you another point on the line. Because they're proportional, basically you can do anything as long as you do it to both the top and the bottom number. It will give you a point on the line. And then you can check to see if that point goes there. All right, number 9 is a scatter plot. And they wanted you to make a prediction. Now remember, when you're taking your benchmark, you're going to be doing this on the computer. So you're going to have to use that straight line tool, right? But when we're doing it on paper, we need a straight edge. And you don't have to do that on the computer. It's kind of easier, I think, on the computer. So I'm going to draw a trend line through these lines. I hate these questions. Let's see if I like that. I don't like that line. I think that one's good. Okay. They want us to make a prediction based on the total number of pages with 4 chapters. Well, here's 4 chapters. So I go up to my trend line and over, and I'm right under 120, but I'm really close to it. So which answer is the best answer? D. Y'all remember how to draw those trend lines, right? And then just go up to your trend line and over. Number 10. What was your clue word? Dilated. When you dilate something, you multiply it, right? And it told you the scale factor was, what was the scale factor? 3/4. It said the perimeter is X. So what would be the new perimeter? Well, what would you do to the 3/4 and the X? Multiply them, because scale factors are multipliers. So which one says take 3/4 and multiply it by X? G. Guys, that's one of the easiest questions they'll ask you, because all you have to do is multiply them. All right, number 11. These questions are annoying. Mr. Jenkins deposited $1,250 into an account. He made no additional deposits or withdrawals. He earned 4.25 simple interest. Did y'all see a clue word? What kind of interest? Simple interest. What was the balance? What does balance mean? Interest or total amount? Balance means total, guys. If I say, hey, what's the balance in your account? I'm talking about how much is in there, right? All right. Here we go. Where do I find a formula? So I go to my STAAR chart. I look for simple interest, and I write this down. But look what this formula says it solves for. So that's not going to give me my final answer, is it? All right. So I'm going to do PRT. What's the principal? The starting amount? 1,250 times, what was the rate? But what do I have to change that to? By dividing by 100. So you get 0.0425 times, what does T stand for? What does it stand for? Time, so 4. So I simply type that into my calculator. Make sure you're not in mode float 2. I get $212.50. Is that my answer? Think about this, guys. He has $1,250 in his account. At the end of 4 years, if he doesn't pull any money out, and he's only got $212, somebody stole from him. Y'all see that? So what am I going to do with this amount? That's how much he made in interest, and he started with this amount. So how much does he have total? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do with those two numbers? Add them. He had $1,250. He made $212.50 in interest. So I simply add them. $1,462.50. When you have a savings account, whatever money you put in there, you're going to make interest off of it. So if you just let it sit, you'll have more money in there in a few years. And that's what he did, and this is how much money the bank gave him in interest. All right, moving on to number 12. Oh, I don't like this question. A polygon is graphed on a coordinate grid. It is transformed using this rule. Y'all stop and look at that rule. What kind of rule is that? What is it doing? What does this mean, AX? Multiplying. What kind of rule is multiplication? Dilation. Y'all remember this? If it's multiplying, it's a dilation. It says which statement would be true. Okay, well, let's talk about it. If you multiply by a number bigger than 1, the shape's going to get? If you multiply by a number less than 1, the shape's going to get smaller. All right, F says if A is greater than 1, the image will be congruent. Congruent means it's going to stay the same. No, it would get bigger, so that's not true. Let's look at G. If A is between 0 and 1, that means if it's a decimal, the image will be congruent. What happens if you multiply by a decimal? It gets smaller. That's not true. H says if A is greater than 1, the image will be smaller. False. It would be bigger. If A is between 0 and 1, a decimal, the image would get smaller. Yes. Number 13. At a store, each notebook has a cost of X dollars. Which situation could represent this? Okay? So each notebook costs $5. All right. The cost of 5 notebooks is greater. Well, look right here. This is 5 notebooks, but what sign is this? So that's not it. B, the cost of 5 notebooks is less. Is that correct so far? Yes. The cost of 3 notebooks with a $2 off coupon. What would it be if it had $2 off? -2. The cost of 5 notebooks is less. That's good. Then the cost of 3 notebooks plus a $2 pen. Yes. All right, number 14, the last one. A can in the shape of a cylinder. What was your clue word? So what are you going to go draw? Yeah, I like to draw the picture because it helps me see what's going on. It doesn't have to be perfect. Has a diameter. Well, diameter goes all the way across the circle. So diameter is 6 and a height of 10. Which measurement is closest to the total surface area? So where do I go find my formula? So I go to my star chart to surface area. I go to cylinder, and which formula do I write down? Lateral or total? This one. 2 pi RH plus 2 pi r squared. Everybody better be writing if you didn't already. Okay, I need a radius and a height. Did they give me a height? Did they give me a radius? They gave me a... So what do I do to this number? which becomes, all right, so I'm doing 2 times pi times my radius times my height, plus 2 times pi times my radius squared. It looks like a long, hard formula, but all you're doing is plugging in an R and an H. So super, super easy. I type it in my calculator, and then I have my answer. And everybody knows where the pi button is, right? And there's my answer, 245.04. So most of these questions were pretty easy today, yes? These were straight from the STAAR test a few years ago.